Welcome back to Reading Bear. Today, we will take a look at some new revenge stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
First one is titled, Bike Thief Shipmates Tell Me to Get Screwed There's Nothing I Can Do About It. Wrong. I served in the US Navy for 6 years and 3 of them were on an old supply ship. Prior to a Westpac deployment, I purchased a Schwindler Tour IV 10-speed bicycle to use for transportation both at our home port and overseas. I was a hospital corpsman and responsible for the medical care for the crew along with 2 other corpsmen. Despite the size of the ship, there is precious little space for the crew to store personal belongings and no designated place for bicycles. So during the deployment I had to move it around from time to time so it would not be in the way of the crew while doing their work. I didn't put a lock on it as I wanted people to be able to move it as needed, and where can you go with a bike while at sea? It was the only bike on the ship and the crew all knew who it belonged to. It was great being able to get around and explore places when we were in port. I had been keeping it in the forecastle near a battle dressing station, and one day while we're in Yokosuka I went to get it and head out on Liberty and the bike was gone. I went around asking my shipmates if it had been moved by someone and was told that a couple of seamen in the deck division had been seen with it at our last port stop in Sasebo. I found them and asked them what they had done with it, and they laughed at me and told me they had tossed it over the side because they were tired of looking at it. It was basically "F doc, you can't do crap about it." And for the moment they were right. Now these 2 deck apes did everything together, and one day they decided to share a prostitute in Korea. Being idiots, they didn't use condoms and came to see me during sick call because it burned when they peed. I wasn't feeling any sympathy and told them that they had to be tested for the clap. This involves swabbing the urethra with a wool-tipped aluminum wire and making a slide to see what kind of bacteria that they had growing in their plumbing. I may have gone deeper than necessary for the sample. I stained the slides and looked at them under the microscope and didn't see any of the gram-negative diplococcic. I expected, meaning their drippy plumbing wasn't gonorrhea but NSU or non-specific urethritis, which we treated with erythromycin. I told them that they had the clap. That means 1 shot in each butt cheek with 1.2 million units of penicillin with a 16-gauge needle. Now the penicillin is thick and kept refrigerated, and there's a med called Benemid that can help the body absorb it, but they didn't know that and I didn't use it. If you want to be nice, you can let a person warm it in their hands before injecting it. Nah, I wasn't that nice. I injected that stuff nice and slow into each cheek right out of the fridge. And now that they had contracted a venereal disease, they were restricted to the ship and we were on our way to the Philippines, which was the favorite Liberty port for sailors who like to party and get laid. They also needed to be retested to see if the treatment was effective, and of course it wasn't. Once again the swab down the urethra, and this time I didn't even bother looking at the slides. Sorry guys, it looks like you still have the clap and yours is the penicillin-resistant kind. Now you get treated with Trobicin. Another injection, more waiting and restriction, and they're still blowing pecker snot in their shorts and feeling the burn every time they pee. Back to sick call they come and I swab the plumbing once again and tell them that the clap is gone, but there's a secondary infection of nonspecific urethritis and now they need to take a 10-day course of erythromycin. So no Liberty in Subic for them and a few weeks of misery until the medication was effective. I didn't get my bike back, but I was satisfied that they didn't get away with it without some payback. Next one is titled, Don't Want to Fix My IT Issue? Well, I think it's time for a new CTO. I just want to state that this IT issue is going blow some people's ducking minds. The security flaw that this presented was nothing short of incredible. And the fact that we never had a major security breach is astounding. It truly is. The flaw, you may ask. Everyone's in the entire company password was the same password. Yes folks, you read that right, every single password to every single employee login was the same password. It was like this before I joined the company, and for quite a few years after. Until, well, enjoy the story. Now what about the username? That must be the trick, right? Oh yeah, that was a trick. The username was the employee email address. I did point out this flaw to my management and their response was, that's not our area to be concerned about, so whatever it paid, well, I'll do my job. And then one day, we had a Windows update which caused a piece of the software I used at work to break. I submitted a help ticket, and after escalating this issue I got to the CTO. It wasn't a huge company. The CTO said, "I don't want to spend the time fixing this, use this workaround," to which I pointed out the workaround slows things down, makes my job harder, and this Windows update has to affect more than just me. I was told to suck it up. Now at the time the CEO was the son of the founder and a bit of duckwit. I legit feel at this point in time he was just collecting a paycheck and letting everything run on auto and didn't pay attention. But I was mad at the CTO for brushing me off, so I penned an email to the CEO. It was a short email. I simply said, "I discovered a massive security flaw that could potentially expose us to huge liabilities. When would be a good time to discuss this?" The response? "What security flaw?" I decided to demonstrate the flaw. I picked 2 random salespeople. I didn't know them. I got their username and I logged into their systems. And I pulled 2 random customers' personal information. The kind of information that would have easily allowed me to commit identity fraud, pull out credit in their names, etc. All kinds of bad stuff. I emailed the CEO and I explained, anyone who knows the URL to log into our system, can log into any one account, pull up customers' information, and everyone has the same password. To prove this I logged into 2 employees' random accounts, and pulled 2 different customers' profiles and I've attached them. One single disgruntled employee could screw us over. 25 minutes later my phone rings. It's the CEO. He was nice, very interested in how I did this. This guy isn't the sharpest knife in the drawer, and I pointed out the flaw in plain English, and the liability that it presents to him. I walked him through the process of hacking my own account, as he called it. I'd hate to call it hacking because it was so easy. Now it dawned on this CEO that this liability was huge. I pointed out again in our conversation a single upset employee could destroy us. The fact that it hadn't happened already is nothing short of a miracle. I get told they want me to present this to the executive team, so they can discuss a solution. Honestly, the solution is ducking obvious. So a day later we have the conference call. It's the CEO, the CTO, COO, CFO, the company lawyer, the senior VP, etc. And on the call I demonstrate the flaw and I lay out how I, as a layperson with very little IT background, is able to figure this out. It's incredible that we have this flaw. Everyone is in agreement that is a huge issue. Expect the CTO. The CTO gets very upset at me. He wants me fired for hacking the system. He says that per our employee handbook what I did is fireable offense. I point out that I'm not abusing this loophole and I'm only doing it to expose the flaw because I care about the company, and I think this is something that needs to be brought forward. I point out that a former disgruntled employee could log into an account and steal customers' personal information, and if that were traced back to us the liability would be huge. I could tell our corporate attorney agreed with me and was shocked at what I was demonstrating. The CTO pointed out that former employees' usernames are disabled, to which I pointed out, every employee username is their email address. It would be trivial for a former disgruntled employee to use a different employee email address that they remember to log in, and since everyone's password is the same they don't even have to guess. The CTO points out that we would know who did it cause of the IP address. I pointed out that VPNs are indeed a thing. The corporate attorney actually wasn't familiar with what VPNs do and I explained it. And what shocked me, if the whole time the only person in the meeting who didn't agree this flaw needs to be changed was the CTO. The CEO made it clear that this issue would be fixed by the end of business that day, and there was no ifs, ands or buts about this. The meeting ended. After the meeting the CTO called me. Privately he was upset. I just exposed his incompetence because the system was his design. The decision for everyone to have the same password was his decision. And I know why he did it. He did it because he was ducking lazy. And I said to the CTO, "You're a shitty CTO, you shouldn't be in the position you are, and you're lazy. You should have found a better solution for my help ticket." He stops and asks, "So this is about your stupid help ticket?" I go, yes it is." He laughs and says he's going to have me fired, and I laugh and go, "I'm pretty sure someone is getting fired. I'm also super confident that's not going to be me." Well, sure enough, later that day we got an email stating that everyone was to change their passwords to something unique. A week later the CEO announced, the old CTO stepped down to spend more time with his family. On the first day of the new CTO tenure he sent me an email telling me he wanted to personally work on my help ticket and find a solution around the Windows update. Which I'm pleased to say he did. And I later had conversations with our attorney at a meeting, we legit never had a security breach. This is simply astounding. The attorney admitted that was just plain dumb luck on our part, and if we would have had a security breach it would have been very bad for us. Next one is titled, Ex-Boyfriend and His Ex Caused Me to Almost Off Myself. I caused my ex-boyfriend to lose his business. I had been dating someone for a few months and decided to get an apartment in their hometown. Everything was going fine until I logged into a local chat room, think AOL days, to hopefully make some new friends and find out good places to go sing karaoke, and a weird username messaged me and said, hello, and nothing else. A few days later me and the boyfriend, let's call him Bob, are supposed to meet up for breakfast, and when I get there he has a messenger bag with him. I ask what he wants to eat, and he says he's not hungry. I ask him what's wrong and he pulls out about 20 pages of a chat log from that weird username on the website. In this chat log there is some very graphic adult stuff that was being discussed by that username. Also in that chat log was my name commenting on it, which I never did. I asked him what this was, and of course he asks me to tell him what it was. I honestly had no idea, and told him so. He broke up with me right there over this. As I stated before, that username had said hello to me, and that was it. This chat log was faked and no idea why someone would do that. When I got home crying my eyes out, my phone rang and there was a strange voice on the line, saying how that now that I'm single, I should go out with them and all sorts of crap. Then the text messages started about wanting to sexually assault me, and various other things. It was revealed it was the ex of my now ex Bob. Called up Bob and told him what was going on and asked him why he gave my number to his ex. He said I should have tried to cheat on him with his ex. Again, never happened. Up until this, I thought Bob was going to be the person I spent my life with. That obviously didn't happen. Needless to say, this resulted in a police report being filed with pictures of all the text messages and voicemails being given to the police. I almost killed myself that night over all of this. Bob's ex created this fake chat log to try to break us up, which it did, just to try to get him back, which it didn't work in the end. The revenge. My ex-boyfriend Bob was running a computer business, and at the time Windows required CD keys to install. He was building custom computers for people but using a key generator to make the keys to install Windows and Microsoft Office 2003. I found this out, and decided to contact Microsoft and the anti-piracy groups and gave them all the information I had. I didn't hear anything more about it. Until just before I moved back to my home state, the hammer fell. My ex lost his computer business and was fined over $100,000 for the software piracy. He still doesn't know who turned him in, but it cost him everything he had worked for. He was forced to move back in with his parents, sell his car, and get a job waiting tables. Update: I was asked why Bob got the brunt of this. Well, here it is. Bob gave my contact info to his ex, and that started a campaign of harassment by his ex towards me. Police wouldn't do anything because of his uncle being on the force. So Bob giving my phone number out to people and being the instigator and telling them to hit me up, as I later found out, is why he got the brunt of it. Rather have went after that sleazeball ex of his, but I couldn't get info on him. I suspect the other reason that the police didn't do anything was because of it involving 3 gay guys. Maybe if it had been a big city, maybe something would have been done back in 2005, but it being the Midwest, probably explains why the police there didn't give a rat's butt. Also, I should mention that I have done some IT work in the past, so that's why I called Microsoft and the anti-piracy groups, because I knew what Bob was doing was piracy, and it would cost him everything if they dropped the hammer on him. Which, it did. Next one is titled, I poked holes in my own air mattress. So, for context, I had just been evicted because my former landlady was crazy. Like the level of crazy where she would occasionally tell stories about the time she breastfed a cat among many other things. So, needing a place to stay, my girlfriend of over a year at the time, now wife, convinced her dad's family to take me in. I was living in the same room as my girlfriend because she also still lived with him. She only managed to convince him through a masterful oratory feat because of some complicated family dynamics that aren't relevant to the story, but regardless, I was thrilled to not be homeless. Cut to a few months later. The situation has grown a bit toxic due to various personality clashes, and my girlfriend bails on the house, not on me. She was pretty fed up with her family at this point, so I have the room all to myself. She takes her sofa bed with her, so I break out my air mattress as a temporary solution. A few days later, I get the news that her grandmother is going to be staying over for a few nights. Aside from a few warnings from my girlfriend that her grandmother is hardcore religious, and to avoid contact as much as possible since I am a non-religious heathen, I don't really think much of it. Until I get home from working a night shift to find a stranger in my bed with no warning or permission. Something I wasn't warned about was that my now father-in-law had a tendency to give away her room without warning or asking permission whenever they had guests. So I'm forced to wait on the couch, exhausted from my night shift when I just want to pass out, until someone wakes up so I can talk to someone about the situation. I can't pass out on the communal couch either. It's covered in dog fur, and I'm mildly allergic. After waiting for an hour, she finally wakes up, and I take my place. When I wake up, my petty rage is no longer restricted by crushing exhaustion. I can't publicly complain because really, they took me in when I had nowhere else to go, and I'm barely even paying any rent. At the same time, I have been slighted, and this must be answered. My air mattress was already going bad, in the slowly losing pressure kind of way, so my solution was simple. I poked a new hole with a pencil. No one said anything. No one complained. I'm not even sure whether anyone knew what I had done. But when I came home from work the next day, my grandmother-in-law was sleeping on the couch, and I slept in blissful, righteous misery on a slowly deflating air mattress. Next one is titled, Steal My Mail. I'll catch you purple-handed. What's better than calling the cops on your sweet little old neighbor's drug-addicted grandson for stealing your Amazon package? In July, my elderly neighbor had her grandson and pregnant girlfriend move in to help them out. She is a widowed lady in her 70s. Babbles a lot, but sweet. I have a soft spot for her. Years ago, she cornered me as I was leaving to take my dog on a walk. My dog was unhappily pacing waiting for the walk while we listened to her stories. He peed on her during the story. She is so senile she didn't notice. Just a few days later, I am mowing my backyard and the grandson walks past my house carrying an Amazon envelope. Weird. An hour later, the sweet little old lady comes over with the envelope her grandson had. This was in my landscaping. I totally forgot I ordered my kids the movie Leap. See, I am a criminal defense attorney. Probably the only one this lady knows. If I call the cops, my neighbor will try to hire me. It will get weird. She is so sweet. I will be a witness. He is on probation, so he will sit in jail for a while. This will totally make me look like a stitch to my own clients in that same jail who are thieves, addicts, and burglars. It's bad personally and professionally. And it's not the biggest deal. So I filled up an Amazon box with purple rain powder that was ordered to my office. A dry dye that gets darker and spreads when it comes into contact with your sweat or any kind of moisture that lasts a week on your skin. Think leaking pen, times 50. Why? I want to shame him, and it won't come back on me. He's not gonna call the cops for stealing my crap. He isn't gonna tell his grandma he stole from me. And if it makes a mess in her house, it's still cheaper for her than hiring a lawyer and paying her grandson's court costs and fines. Yep, the package was gone in 20 minutes. I walk past the home, screams of anger at the pregnant girlfriend. This scrap won't come off, it's all over my grandma's house. Priceless. The following day I give him the head no as he smokes a cigarette in a hoodie in July. He runs inside. Then I taught my kids to yell, Smurf, when we walk past. No snitching, just shame. Last one is titled, Bunkmates Steal Man's Fudge so he plots an unforgettable revenge for them. Not me, but a friend's story from his time in the military. Receives care package from grandparents of 7 pounds of homemade fudge and cookies, but immediately has to go on a long mission, like 2 months long. Instructs his bunkmates to wait for his return and all will be shared. He returns, there's less than £1 left. There's initial outrage to be sure, but he's calm about it. You'd rather see his outrage than his calm face because that's when he's plotting your demise. Weeks and months pass, and he has plotted. Finally, he's scheduled to be in the same vehicle as them. The night before, he chows down on 2 boxes of Oreos and a gallon of milk. Lactose intolerant. His head is sticking out the top hatch and made a seal with his belt and equipment. Just as they got too far to return, he lets loose the vilest, most sickening flatulence. He was happy to, quite literally, shit his pants. The guys inside ended up vomiting all over the inside of the vehicle, and ended up having to pay my friend back the market value of the fudge, which he never got to taste again because his grandmother passed away before being able to make another batch. Thanks for listening.